diesel locomotives. For rail fans, some could care less, while others see them as they do a classic car. There's just something fascinating about them. As museum pieces, they fascinate us and bedazzle us with their timeless charm. Much like a restored steam locomotive, a classic diesel locomotive operating today is altogether fascinating. While many classic diesel locomotives today have been preserved by museums, historical societies, and tourist railroads, a good many second-generation yet classic diesel locomotives are still employed today by modern railroads, like Norfolk Southern. Over the last decade, I have railfanned Norfolk Southern countless times, and many of those classic SD40-2 diesels from the mid to late 1970s have often shown me and others that no matter your age, you can still do a good day's work. We will see several older locomotives from the Old Southern, Norfolk and Western, Conrail, and Penn Central running freights and other duties almost unchanged from their heyday. Today, many of these units have been upgraded with shorter hoods and other modifications, making these catches all the more special. Sometimes the new and the old get the chance to work together. Here in 2009, we see an NS northbound with two modern locomotives in front with an older SD40 behind. Locomotive 3443 was built for the Penn Central Railroad in 1971 and became part of Norfolk Southern in the late 1990s when its successor company, Conrail, was split between Norfolk Southern and CSX. 3443 ironically was sold to CSX in 2015. Behind the fence of the Virginia Museum of Transportation, where many of its older cousins now rest, we see NS 3078 and NS Slug number 924 do some switching in downtown Roanoke, Virginia. 3078 was built for the Norfolk and Western in 1967 as number 1360, while the Slug was originally Norfolk and Western GP18 number 960. Both engines were working on home rails on that particular day in 2009. Also working on some switching assignments that day were a pair of former Southern Railway SD40-2s, NS 3319 and 3315. Today both engines have been modified with short hoods in front of the cab. In Alta Vista, Virginia in 2009, we see a freight train pass with NS B32-8 number 3530 and NS 3378. 3530 was built for Norfolk Southern in 1989. The engine was renumbered to 530 in 2013 and was retired from service in around 2016. 3378 is an SD40-2 built in 1978 for Conrail as their number 6444 and is still operating today. After Conrail was split up in the 1990s, many old Conrail engines retained their blue paint well into the early 2000s. In 2009, on a former Virginian Railway location, we see Conrail painted NS locomotives 3371 and 3422 leading NS 6078 with a freight. 3371 was built in 1977 as Conrail number 6429, while 3422 was built in 1979 as number 6516. Both were painted into NS Black by 2011. 6078 was originally built in 1975 for the Norfolk and Western. All three engines are still employed by Norfolk Southern today. Back in Alta Vista, Virginia in 2010, we caught NSGP38-2 number 5571, leading several other old locomotives northbound. 5571 was built for the Southern in 1969 as number 2750. Today the engine is employed by First Union Rail since 2013. Back in Roanoke, Virginia in 2011, NS 6187 and slug unit number 870 do some switching at Norfolk Southern's Schaefer's Crossing Yard on a damp morning in the fall. 6187 was built in 1978 for the Norfolk and Western, while 870 was originally Norfolk and Western SD40 number 1587. Both are still in service today. Sometimes you never know when a special assignment will take place. Back in 2009, we saw NS 1648 running solo with mixed freight, and once again in 2014, when Norfolk and Western steam locomotive number 611 was being towed out of the Virginia Museum of Transportation for restoration to service. 1648 was built in 1974 for the Norfolk and Western. Who'd have thought that this N&W diesel would lead the first big movement for the N&W 611 towards operation in the 21st century? Assisting 1648 is NS 3216, the former Southern Railway SD40-2. In 2017, during the recently revived N&W 611's excursion from Spencer, North Carolina to Lynchburg, Virginia, 611 was assisted by none other than a former Norfolk and Western diesel, NS 6110. Talk about special assignments. While not all diesels may end up like the 611, one can hope that a handful of vintage NS diesels will be preserved for the future.